Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Henry, and I'm the librarian for the College of Education. We're just on the main library website. To get here, you can type in library.ttu.edu. It's not the same URL as it is up here, but it'll resolve to the same page. And we're going to just talk about how to use the library resources for if you were in the College of Education. So we're going to come in here to the personal librarian square, and we're going to click on that. We're going to scoot down to the College of Education. We're going to use the curriculum and instruction, but you can also jump into psychology and leadership. Both these pages are set up very similarly, and I'm just going to click on that. From this page, you might want to bookmark it. This is really good information for anything in your subject area. You can see you can email me from this page, and you can book an appointment with me, which I think quite a few of you have started doing, and I really appreciate that. It makes it pretty easy. It syncs up with my calendar. So if you know you can meet that appointment, then you can book that. Just quickly, we can click on there. You'll find a date that you want to find a time for, and then you'll just pick the time, and then you'll just have to set up your name. You can drop a file there if you want, and it will come all to me so I can see it before we meet. Okay, so let's go ahead and look around here from some things. These are the databases that are best for your subject area. We have some additional resources. We'll be using these library services information, and here's some assistance with APA if that's something you need help with. So let's go back up here to the databases. I'm just going to grab Education Source. That's a good education database. Of course, we have Educational Administrators Abstracts. Academic Search Complete is a very large database that almost anything on campus will have something in there. ERIC is really information from the government, so you could look in there. Again, JSTOR is pretty large, as is Project Muse. And then we have some that are a little bit more related to psychology or behavior, and you might want to use those. And then depending on what you're looking for, Web of Science and SAGE and Sociological are all very large databases that you could dig around in. But this is our best bet for most educational materials. So I'm going to click in there. I'm going to sign in with my e-reader. This is very much like it would look if you were off campus, which I think a lot of y'all do search materials from off campus. Okay, so let's talk about this page. This is an EBSCO is the vendor here, but the title to this database is still Educational Source, like we clicked on to get to here. And I try to point that out because the difference of that is we have probably 200 databases from EBSCO. And I invariably every semester have somebody email me and say, oh, can you help me find this article that I thought I emailed to myself, but that email didn't come through. And if you can tell me educational source, I guarantee between the two of us, we can find that. But if you can only tell me EBSCO, this big vendor, it will be a lot harder to find. Now, I typically use the advanced search, so I'm going to click on that. And that just gives me a few more boxes to play around with here. And then at this level of where you're doing some kind of research for papers that you're turning in, I always encourage peer-reviewed. Now, peer-reviewed, scholarly, referee, jury, that's all the same terminology. And it just means that that article has been sent to a panel of experts in that field before that it was published in that journal. And so if you're specifically looking for like a newspaper article or a Newsweek kind of magazine article or a book, you would not want to check mark that book peer-reviewed. I think any kind of research that you're looking for where you need to cite a couple of resources for a paper, or you're doing some in-depth research for a dissertation, you would really want to be in that area. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some searching here. I thought we might look at distance education. And let's go ahead and search here, and we're going to see our number narrow down here, our results as we add some more terms. And then I thought we might look at higher education. And then what about the teaching experience? Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and narrow that down. So we're about 188. That's not too bad of a set, but we haven't set all of our limiters. Over here on the left, we can see the peer review is marked, and we have the checkbox marked. But then we're looking at the date range from 1995 to current. And I always try to search that like the last 5 years, the last 10 years. Here we are in the fall of 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot us on up to 2019. That gets us just shy of 5 years, but I think it will be okay. Oh, and look, we have 63. Now this set probably is really good for us. It's not so large that we're not going to dig through all of that potentially, but it's a small enough set that the really relevant information is going to land towards the top. And that's what we want. We want to get through all of that research so that we can find really relevant information to whatever we want to be researching. So if we're at less than 100, I think that's a pretty good set because we have a lot of full text. So you might find your topic still a little bit broad. And then if we are down past, like 5, 10, 15, we really need to kind of think of some of our key terms here. Maybe look into a population like higher education or distance could be considered populations. Or we might want to think about what else other terms could we use here so that maybe we just hit the wrong term and we need to broaden back out a little bit or have a synonym. So a good example of that would be like if I use the word teenager, then I really want to use the word adolescent. So it's a little bit more research related. And so here we are. Let's go ahead and look at some of these. I'm just kind of scanning the titles here. Oh, okay, let's look at this one. It looks pretty good. I'm going to click on the title to this record. And so we're in record number 6. And here's the title here, Understanding Lived Experience of Online Learners. And then we have the authors here. And then we have the source line. So that source line is really the journal article that it was published in. So it was published in Online Learning in June of 2022, volume 26, issue 2. And that's the page range there. And let's talk about how journals are published. So we see the issue number is 2, but a lot of times you will have an issue number in parentheses. So anytime you see an issue number in a set of parentheses, just know that that's the issue number. And sometimes journals are published annually, weekly, monthly, every other month, sometimes seasonally. So occasionally you might see issue fall, issue winter. So don't let that throw you. That's really the citation that you need to be including. And over here on the right, you can see the site. And if you look at APA, then you can copy and paste this into an email for yourself or a Word doc, however you're going to store your research. I do caution you to go ahead and look at this, make sure it is set up the way APA really wants it. They really use this to try to make the citations the best they can. But remember, humans are inputting that information, so they may have made a mistake. So, like one thing here, I would check on this capitalization. My understanding is that it should only be, the article title should only be understanding would be capitalized, and then the T because there's a subtitle here. But then the journal would be capitalizing any important words, which online learning both would be capitalized. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then let's go ahead and look at the rest of this article. So here are the author supplied keywords. And while an author knows what he or she is doing, the more important terms here are these subject terms. And depending on which database you're in, they sometimes will be called subjects, descriptors, mesh terms. And that is how this article is indexed into this database. So these are more pertinent to the article. So if I really wanted to find something like this, like this article is really relevant to my research and I wanted to find more like it, I would look at these terms. So I do have distance education up there, but I have higher education, which this doesn't have, but the teaching experience is here. And we may want to think about online education instead of just distance education. And so then here is the abstract. And EBSCO is really nice. It bolds anything that you have up in the search boxes. And I kind of let that help my eye kind of scan this. If I only have one term in this abstract, maybe it's not as relevant as I once thought it was. But since there's quite a few here, this might be really interesting to read. So how would I go about reading this? I would kind of scoot back up here, and EBSCO kind of puts their stuff over here on the left. But every vendor is different, so you just have to kind of look around and find the PDF. So let's go ahead and open this so we can see how that opens. And so here is the article itself. And if we forgot to write down our citation information, a lot of times the PDF will help you build that. Look, here's the citation right here. Now, it may not be set up in APA or MLA or whatever you're using, so you need to use the parts to make it right. But it does look like it is in APA at the moment. And look at this. They did put these are not capitalized as I suggested on the other page. Okay, so then if I wanted to look at this article, I could just scroll down and get that. The one thing that I do like to point out is the PDF is really kind of like a scanned copy of what it would look like if it was printed. Although a lot of times these things are not printed anymore, they're just born online. But that helps you build the citation, but also gets you the page number. So when you're citing something, you can really have that. And then a lot of times it will have charts, graphs, pictures, any kind of that built into it. Whereas occasionally you will see where you could get the HTML full text. And I encourage you to not get that unless that's the only copy you can get. I was just going to scan through here real quick and see if, like this table is probably not usually in the HTML full text. So that's why I always encourage you to get the PDF. Okay, so if I wanted to download this or print this, I would want to use these icons, not these outside icons. If I print it from here, it's only going to print this outside frame. So be aware of that. And I'm going to go ahead and click back onto our results list. And so here we are with a PDF right here. So we can see it from this screen as well. I just kind of like to get into the record occasionally, especially if I'm looking at the subject terms and reading the abstract before I try to download all these. I don't want to download something that I don't think I really will read, because then it will just be one more article that I have to dig back through. And let's see. Oh, and here's an example of that HTML full text to the PDF full text. In this case, I would always get the PDF instead of HTML. And then let's see here. Okay, let's see this. This is what I was looking for, sorry. If we just see the find it, there's no PDF here. How are we going to read that? So the find it is the library's links resolver. So if I click on that, it's going to look through all the other databases that we own to see if we can find the full text for you. Oh, and it did. It dropped us right straight into the article itself. And then they're asking for a lot of cookies, so you may see those pop up well too. Just go ahead and say okay. And then we have to be on the screen and kind of find where the PDF is. And so here it's this PDF. So I could click on that and it would bring up the PDF. So you can see it's slightly different. It does have the Adobe icon, but it's not colorized the way you would think it would be. And it does say PDF, but sometimes they say free full text, sometimes they just say PDF, sometimes they have the Adobe icon, sometimes they don't. I don't ever want you to get to a screen like this and not be able to find your PDF. That's a good time to email me. You can just email me that source line that we were talking about in the record. Or if you have the title and the authors too, that's great. But I just need to have that information. And either I will send you back the PDF itself, or I will tell you that we'll have to interlibrary loan that. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and load this up so we can see that it opens up in a slightly different way, because every vendor has it in slightly different setup. And so I could go ahead and download this, or I could go ahead and view this here. So however I wanted to store my research, I could print it, or I could store it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get back on our results list. So we've opened a few tabs here, only because when the Find It opens to a new window. Let's see if we can find one other option, because we found a full text and we found it when the Find It finds it for us. But let's see if we can find one where it doesn't find it for us. Oh, this is a good example. So it found no full text for us. And so this will show us how to use the requested option. The requested option is linked to our interlibrary loan document delivery department. And so if I click on this, it's going to open my interlibrary loan account. And you see that it brought in most of the information, but not the journal title. So I can just pop back over here and find the journal title. It looks like it's the Journal of Education and Learning. So I'm going to copy that, come back over here. I can drop that in there, and then I'd be ready to submit. So our document delivery department works very hard to make sure that all our interlibrary loan requests are handled in a timely manner. If it's something we can deliver to you electronically, that usually is in about 48 hours. So if you put in items, Monday or Tuesday, you will definitely get it by the end of the week. But if you don't put in a lot of research or requests until like Friday, it won't be until the next week. So plan ahead. If you plan to write a paper Sunday afternoon, then make sure you do the research early in the week or the week before, so that you can have all the materials that you want. I'm not going to request this now because I don't really need this, but I'm going to show us around in this account. Is called our ILLiad account, and it works with our document delivery service. So I'm going to click on main menu, and these are all the items that I can request. So we were just requesting a journal article. You can see my pending requests are down here. And then if I were to receive an article this way, I would get an email to my TTU email address, and it would say, come and look in the electronically received. And so if I click on that, then here's all the PDFs. And so I could download, print them, store them, however I would it just outside of a database too. It's the same. It doesn't matter that you got it this way. Feel free to do what you need to with that information. They stay in here for quite a bit too, so you can store it here if you want. And then if it's a physical item, like a book, that's actually coming from another library, because that's what interlibrary loan means. It's like we're working with other libraries to get the materials, because not every library can subscribe to everything or buy every book. And so if there's anything that we don't have, we happily loan it to our other libraries, and other libraries loan things to us. So if I was to get a book from another library, I would get an email, and it would be in my checked out or renewed. I can click on here and see my books here. And so then you can see when they're due. And if I wanted to renew one of these, that all comes from the original library. So whatever library sends that book to me, it will tell me on a piece of paper on that book that it is a interlibrary loan book from another campus, another library, and the home library gets to decide their return date. So that could be 2 weeks, that could be 2 months. It just depends on what that library sets for us. And then we can request if we can get a renewal, but just remember, It's up to that library if that's going to happen or not. And if you were to wanting to set this up, let's get back on our main tab here where my picture is for curriculum and instruction. If I scroll down here, I can click on this interlibrary loan, ILL. That's what ILL stands for, interlibrary loan. And I'll click on this, and here we are. We'd sign in. If this is the first time that you're using this service, if you sign in, then the first screen you will see will have you create an account, and you'll have to use your TTU email address because that's the only one that we can email to legally because of copyright. So you have some privileges as a student. You have library fees that you pay, and that allows us to send you these materials. If you sign up with a Gmail, it won't, we can't send that to you. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and get back in our database here, and I might clean up some windows. We were doing quite a bit of organizing there. That's basically how you do some research into a database. If you wanted to pull together some different citations, every database has a different way to mark them. Here in EBSCO, you just click on that little blue icon, and then it turns yellow. And then it stores them over here in the folder view or up here in the folder view. And then you could export these citations into a citation manager, either into EndNote or Mendeley or Zotero. And so I kind of use this screen as one more way of checking what I want to include or not, because I had to move them over here. And sometimes as you start searching, a lot of times I say, well, that's not too bad. But then when I get into a little bit more, so I may only want these last ones, and I can mark them. Or if I know I want everything on the screen, I can mark it all, and anything that is light blue will move over. And then you would just click export. And then you can see this RIS format. That RIS format is a citation format. And you can see you can move that into EndNote or Zotero. And Mendeley, you just download the PDF and drop it in, and it builds the citation from the PDF. So there you go. Okay, so I know people want to use this EndNote Web, but the last time I tried to use it in EBSCO, it didn't work. So that's why I just tell you to use the RIS format, and then you can automatically import it in there. Okay, if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to do that. Let's also look at Google Scholar real quick before we kind of wrap up. I'm going to do the same kind of searching here. I have my Google Scholar set to work with the library. I'll show you how to do that now. If you click on these three lines over here on the very far left, then I'm looking for the settings. Then I'm looking in this menu in the middle to the library links. And then I want to make sure that I'm typing in Texas. Oh. Texas Tech, but nothing else. And so what I want to make sure is checked is Texas Tech University Libraries FT at TTU Lib. That just means full text at TTU Lib. And then the WorldCat, Open WorldCat, that's just a large catalog that most of the world participates in. So feel free to leave that checked. Now I'm not going to check the Health Science Center or the law school, as I don't have online privileges at those libraries, but I can walk into those libraries and check out materials as a student or faculty at TTU. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to do the same search we have been doing. So we were looking at distance education, and it automatically runs it. So I'm just going to keep narrowing a bit. And higher education and teaching experience. There we go. So what we're really looking for is this FT at TTU Lib. So if I wanted to read this, instead of clicking on this record and looking at it on that page, because a lot of times since it wouldn't know that you are affiliated with Texas Tech at all this way, it might suggest that you have to pay like $35.95. Well, you've already paid your fees. You don't need to do that. you want to use this FT at TTUlib. Now you could click on this PDF, Wiley. Now I know that Wiley is a large publisher, so I wouldn't feel too stressed about that. But maybe some of these, I don't know where they're coming from. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. So I wouldn't want to click on that because I wouldn't think that that might be a safe place for me to click for my computer. So I know this is a TTU Libraries link, and it will just get me back into the library page to find the full text. So I'm just going to click on that. It's our links resolver again, and then it helps me find where to find that item. Now, if we have several options to find it, you can use any one of these as long as the date range is appropriate for whatever database, for whatever article. So this is from article is from 2021. So this says that it is from 1998 on, but not the most recent available year. So that means that if it was in the last 12 months, it wouldn't be available here. But since this is older than the last 12 months, we could find it here. But we just recently added these options here, and you see the PDF here? So if you ever see this, I would just go ahead and get it. And it's going to take a second to walk through that screen. And that library key is just another tool that the library has deployed so that it makes it a little bit easier for you to find what you need. And here you are again. You can read this, you can download it, you can print it, and you'll be all set. So I'm going to close this, and we're back in our links resolver. But since we're in Google Scholar, it doesn't populate to a new window, so I have to click back there. So let's look at something next. So this one doesn't have the FT at TTUlib. What are we going to do with this one? Well, I'm going to click on this and see if we can see this little get it at TTU. That usually means we don't have it in full text, but we could probably borrow it through interlibrary loan. And I would click on that, and it would open it for me. Oh, but we do have this in online access, so I could just go ahead and read that real quick if I wanted to. But if not, I would use this request it, and it would be delivered to me quite quickly, like in 48 hours, as long as it's not a book. And let's see, sometimes on this page it's a little overwhelming. You can see that the title of the item is here, and then the authors are in green right below that, and then usually the journal name is right there. But if there is a little item out here, sometimes it says book, but this is still from a journal because it's just HTML. I was just seeing if we could find a book. I don't see a book, but occasionally you will see one here, and you can know that those would all be, unless we had an ebook option, which we're getting more of those, you would be requesting that through interlibrary loan. So that's just a little bit about Google Scholar, and I think that saves you so much time. Especially I use Google Scholar if a professor has said, oh, read this item, or I think this article that I just randomly ran across would be perfect. The title is this, but now you don't know anything else but the title. You can drop the title in here, and it usually will find it for you quite quickly. You don't have to know where it's indexed in one of the databases to be able to find it. So I'm just going to scoot back to our main database here one more time. And that's how we kind of use the information here at the library. You find your databases, you have access to me, you have access to your interlibrary loan here. Here is where, if you need those Google Scholar steps again, feel free to do that. You can load that at any browser that you're working at. So if you're at a hotel and need to use it real quick, because it will only benefit those that are a part of TTU. So it doesn't really matter if you set it there and then leave it there. They can't access that materials because you would have to be signing in with your e-rater, so that helps. And I kind of do that. A lot of times I go and visit my parents in Colorado at Christmas. If I want to do any kind of research, I can do that. And then I can still have access to also the library materials, but through Google Scholar as well. And then the only other thing that I really like to point out is, again, these APA 7th style, because I think you need to know that. And if you don't have the manual, I encourage you to get it, but this will help you. Purdue is a nice online website that where you can find, oh, I need to cite a book, or I need to cite an article from a database, or I need to cite whatever, and I'll help you bring up an example for that. This is our guide, and these two are reference guides from APA. This is a quick visual kind of looking one. I like it because the color coding is helpful to my brain, but not everybody learns that way. But it's really useful. It's like, oh, anything in yellow is the author, then the year, then the title of the article. And so you can kind of get that information and what pieces need to be in each place. So there's just 3 examples on this one. And then the other one has a whole example guide where you have several different kinds of options. They think that these are the most common reference examples. I've not seen a lot of people quote a blog post, but there's quite a few here, like an edited book, an authored book. The journal article, of course, would be very common. And then if it was an online newspaper article, all these kind of things. So you can check that out for quick reference. Of course, your best bet is always to check the manual. That will be the true authority. So. Okay, that is a little bit about the library and how you can get some assistance. If you need anything else, please reach out to me. Again, my name is Cynthia Henry, and I would love to work with you.